Welcome to Safe and Secure, where we discuss the problems and solutions that make up the systems integration world. Each week, we'll feature industry leaders and experts to discuss the obstacles and challenges in our industry with your host, Kevin Rand. So, let's dive in.
Hey, Nick, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
Doing good. I'm so happy that you were able to join us today for Safe and Secure. It's definitely a pleasure and a long time coming to have you and Hanwha on our episode. Nick, tell me in the audience a little bit about yourself and about Hanwha.
Sure. So about me, I got into this industry right out of college. I've been down in North Carolina now 12 or 13 years, and I started on the integration side of the business. So I worked for a small alarm dealer and then a national systems integrator similar to yourself. And then I joined the manufacturing side of the business. So I've got, perspective from both the integration and the manufacturing side. As far as Hanwha, we're one of the largest camera manufacturers in the world. Up until a few years ago, Hanwha was sold under the brand name Samsung. It was a small division of Samsung that does their military and electronic security products. The Hanwha Corporation is another very large South Korean conglomerate, and they sell internationally and in North America under the brand Hanwha Techwin America.
Okay, so big security camera industry. So I'm sure you're touching all kinds of different end users, from law enforcement to K-12, higher ed, and
Sure.
and retail and manufacturing and everything in between. What are you seeing, or what is Hanwha seeing as like some of the bigger challenges right now in that security or video world?
Yeah, so they tend to be specific to each vertical, and every area of the country is a little different. In my territory, we're pretty heavy in finance and in government. We do a lot of banking institutions and a lot of local government. I think the challenge that most end users face overall when dealing with security products is that it's a pretty niche market, and so as a consumer, we're not nearly as familiar with security products as we are with consumer electronics. And there's kind of an expectation of integration on the consumer side, whereas there really is no true integration on the commercial security side. So for example, in video, we have a standard called ONVIF, which it's pretty good. We can allow a third-party camera to connect to a third-party software, but it's not perfect. So it really does take the expertise of integrators like A3 to know what products work with what other products to give a customer the best solution possible.
Gotcha. And in talking about that security camera world, I know, what was that, last year, maybe year before, they came out with the John McCain Act that had some National Defense Authorization Act with
That's right.
compliancy and those kind of things. Can you talk a little bit about what that is and what are the I guess issues with the end user on that NDAA compliance?
Sure. So this has been like a huge movement within this industry. So the North American Defense Authorization Act, or NDAA, basically was it was a piece of legislation designed to secure the government from vulnerability. There are some specific companies that are Chinese-based that have had a number of different issues that have come to light with just cybersecurity vulnerabilities in general. And then on top of which there's the need for American government institutions to have a secure purchasing arrangement with their vendors. So the NDAA Act bans specific manufacturers from selling into the government, and from government institutions from buying those products, be it the branded labeled products themselves or OEM components of those companies, which is another huge thing within this industry. So there are just a handful of companies, Hanwha being one of them, that manufactures every component on the camera, from the chip to the camera housing to the optics itself. In most other cases, there are hundreds or perhaps thousands of brands of cameras that use componentry created by another manufacturer. And unfortunately, some of those banned companies were some of the largest OEM providers in the world. So many different manufacturers have had to adjust their business philosophy. In fact, one of those components in particular was widely used. And when I say widely, I mean like to the 99th percent of all products on the market for DVRs. So Hanwha included has had to adjust to get a different chip manufacturer for DVRs. And we make obviously our own chipsets for our camera line as well. So we are compliant now with NDAA regulations. And for the sake of the end user, it's important to ask those questions. Are these products NDAA compliant, especially if they're receiving government funds to fund their projects? That includes schools.
Yeah, that is a very important thing there on the federal side and the ban of those things. But at the end of the day, it's really about cybersecurity. Correct. And every end user, whether you're in public sector or private sector, you've got to be concerned about cybersecurity. And moving from and granted, we've been there for 10 plus years, moving from analog to IP based cameras, moving from facility directors and security directors having control over camera systems to IT directors needing to be involved with camera systems. So that cybersecurity component is going to be very important to any IT director that's out there looking at security systems, or their security director or their facility director or whoever is saying, hey, we need new cameras. They've got to pay attention to that cybersecurity need. Absolutely.
That's right.
All right. So Nick, we talked about the cybersecurity around NDAA and that every end user needs to be worried about the cybersecurity because of going from these analog systems over to an IT-based system. The camera industry has done a great job in marketing, putting that word security in front of camera. And people expect to see those security cameras. We're seeing more and more of them pop up on city corners. Buildings have hundreds. I know from K-12 perspective, high schools typically will have like 130 to 200 cameras depending on their size. How is Hanwha helping the end user go through all of that video to where it's actually useful?
Yeah, so there's basically two types of interactions with video systems. You have like live monitoring of video versus forensic search, right? So after the fact, going back through that video and trying to identify that incident for liability purposes or to understand who committed, potential crime. So there's two ways that we can really help end users have more actionable information from the live view perspective. So number one is we can utilize like video analytics to help indicate when video may be worth looking at, right? Human beings are not great at multitasking many different video screens and trying to identify what's going on those screens all at once. What we're real good at doing is looking at a specific video and interpreting what's going on at that specific time. We're better at doing that than any type of video analytic algorithm ever will be. So what we can do is utilize, from a live view perspective, analytics to bring the operator's attention to the video so that they can then go through and understand whether or not they need to escalate that video or create an action, right? And we can do that a couple of different ways. We can do it by just bringing the video up on their screen if they're looking at live view monitored video, or we can send them a notification, right? And the cameras have the ability to do this independent of whichever video management software we're working with. Hanwha is a very open architecture platform, so our cameras work on third-party software, and we have software that works with third-party cameras as well. So the ability to notify the operators during an event gives you more of a proactive approach to video, whereas the primary way that most customers interact with the video surveillance solution is to look at the video after the fact and recording. And this has come a long way from the days of pushing the play button and literally watching video at live tempo or fast forward or rewind. Now within our video, the camera can actually recognize whether or not there's motion in the scene. So you can skip through all the video that might not be pertinent to what you're looking for. We have a lot of different ways to search for actions inside of a video. We can do a region of interest search. So if we're looking for example, what time a laptop disappeared on a desk, we can create a motion histogram right on that specific area of the video where the laptop was located, and jump directly to when that laptop left the desk. So this makes it a lot more efficient for customers to actually go back and look for video, as well as we can flag video with those analytics. So even if the customer says, all right, I don't want to be notified real time when motion happens, because maybe there's a lot of motion that happens in this event anyway, but I want to know when somebody's been in a specific area for a given amount of time. We call that like a loiter alarm, right? And we can also schedule these as well. So, perhaps it's regular for there to be a lot of activity in an area during normal business hours, but after normal business hours, maybe then we want a notification, or at the very least, we want to flag that video for somebody to come in the next day and look at. So these are ways we can actually improve the efficiency of search. And I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit later on in our discussion, but with the advancement of artificial intelligence, or AI, now on the cameras, we can do it even more efficiently, and we can do it with a greater level of accuracy.
No, that's fantastic. There's a bunch of tools that are out there. Like you said, third party. I love the fact that you said, you guys are open, so you'll work with just about anybody that'll let you on the analytics side, and helping people really drive down to find the information they need, or even, get those proactive alarms that can be triggered through the AI or the different things on the edge with your camera. So love that. Nick, I'm an end user, and I'll just use a generic, I'm an end user. What is the most important thing, or if I told you, hey, you only have the ability to tell me one thing that would be the top of the line, most important for me when I'm looking at trying to buy a camera system? That's a tough one too, by the way.
It is. I think ultimately it comes down to information, right? And it's difficult at times. The expression, like, you don't know what you don't know. So if you don't know what questions to ask, it becomes very difficult to properly vet a piece of technology. I think what's most important in that technology is going to be different customer by customer. Perhaps it's ease of use for some customers who just want the product to do something very simple, and they want to be able to very easily find what they're looking for. Time is of the most important essence for them. For another customer, it's going to be, not only do I want it to do this, but I also want it to do that. So I think engaging the right type of people with the right information is going to be the most important. Having a trusted partner like an A3, an integration company that knows what technology is capable of, utilizing the manufacturers as well. We go into partnership a lot of times with customers on an opportunity where like A3 will bring us into a project and say, hey, we have a number of different products. We think this looks like a good product. Let the manufacturer tell you, the end user, more about what it can do. And I think there's also something that happens when we come in as a partnership, because the end user knows that I'm more of a product expert on the specific product that I'm presenting to them. So when I'm asking them exploratory questions about how do you expect to use this software or hardware, what are your primary focuses with this solution? What do you want it to do? And then we can explore from there. You tend to uncover a lot of the challenges that the customer's having.
Yeah, you just nailed something. Involving stakeholders and research. I think those are the two things. And you cannot rely on Hanwha solely to provide you everything you need. You cannot provide, A3 cannot do that on its own. You as an IT director can't do it on your own. The security director can't do it on their own. The facilities guy can't do it on their own. Purchasing can't do it on their own. But when we all come together as that team, partnering together and learning what you are looking for, IT director, whether that's a cloud-based solution, an on-prem solution, a proprietary versus a non-proprietary solution, what the cybersecurity needs around your solution, looking at the security director and saying, hey, what are we trying to look at here? What are we trying to capture here? And then we can design those camera models and lenses to fit that need. and it just goes on and on. So if you're an
Kevin,
end user,
I've got a friend who's a consultant in this industry, and he has an amazing phrase. It's called Herb's Rule of Three. Herb Ubens is a consultant he's an independent consultant that works with end users to create security specs. And he actually says the same thing you said. It has to do with stakeholders. So Herb's Rule of Three goes like this. Identify 3 stakeholders that are going to be using this system, and their objectives and their requirements might be different from each other. But when you have multiple stakeholders making the decision on the solution they're looking to implement, you tend to cover the bases of what that end user is looking for. So like you said, it might be the security director, it might be the chief of police, and perhaps it might be like the dean of a department in a university. All 3 of those people are going to have different objectives they're looking for. And by bringing those different stakeholders into the discussion, you tend to focus in and address all of their concerns.
Hey, Nick, you've been in the security industry and the camera industry for a lot of years. What is the one thing that is exciting you the most that's going to be rolling out or has already rolled out?
Sure. So I hit on it a little bit earlier, but artificial intelligence is something that the industry has been trying to implement for a while. And I think we're finally starting to get to like a solution or a product that we can really market with a great deal of success. So the reason it's important and it's going to be valuable to end users is because up until recently, the analytics that we spoke about earlier were based on pixel change within the camera's field of view. And while that's a great tool, it also generates a lot of minutia data because simple lighting change would be registered as motion to a camera. Now with artificial intelligence, the algorithm actually knows to go in and identify those objects. So we call this object identification. The camera can actually recognize that's a person, that's a car, that's a license plate, and it can do this and ignore all the rest of the motion in the scene. And so now we can get much more specific with our search. We can have a higher level of accuracy, and as well as we can avoid the possibility of generating too much notifications that are false notifications that become minutia. Because once you have too many notifications that aren't actionable, people start to ignore them. So artificial intelligence is great because it's gonna improve the efficiency of those notifications and speed up search. And I think it's an exciting new technology.
No, that's spot on and absolutely perfect. Well, Nick, how can we get a hold of you? How can we get more information about Hanwha?
Sure. So Hanwha is very easy to look up online, hanwhasecurity.com. And my email is n.giannakis@hanwha.com. And of course, I'm available by phone as well, 919-886-8166.
Nick, thank you for your time today, brother. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Kevin. Good talking with you.
Thanks for joining us for this week's episode of Safe and Secure. For show notes, visit a3communications.com. Thank you again for watching, and don't forget to stay safe and secure. We'll see you next time.